Hey everyone, I want to show you how to turn on and off the main auditorium sound system. So we're going to start by taking the dust cover off of the console, which when we're done, we will put it back on. Then we're going to turn the console on. We'll turn on the computer that runs all the Waves plugins. And then we'll also turn on the PA itself. So 3 places, 3 buttons or switches to turn everything on. We'll let it all boot up. Okay, so now that we've got the system on, the console has loaded. You can see all the meters up here have loaded on the second screen. I'm going to launch the Waves software that runs all of the plugins. So the current version of that is called Super Rack and is the SR icon there. And then I like to arrange the screen with the clock down in the bottom right. You'll see the rest of the windows here in a minute. And if you look down at the bottom of the rack, you'll actually see a second ago, this was blinking red. Now it's a solid blue, telling you that it's got something controlling it. It's awake and alive. That's the Waves server that runs all the plugins. And then we have Super Rack here that looks like it is happy. We're seeing just a little bit of level on this vocal channel, so that's good. That's just noise in the background. If it were all the way at the bottom with no green, that might tell us that we're not getting audio through the Waves plugin, through the Waves software. So the other thing we can do here on the computer while we're looking at it is load the Wireless Workbench software, so WWB. And that monitors all of the wireless microphones. It doesn't monitor the in-ears, unfortunately. There's not a way to do that because of the direction the signal transmits. But all the microphones are transmitting back here, and so the receivers can monitor all of that and send that information to Wireless Workbench. So once we're in Wireless Workbench, we're going to go to File, Open Recent, choose the most recent show file. It's asking if you want to save the blank file, so no, we don't need to save the blank one that opened by default. And once it's done loading, then we're going to click on Monitor, and that will give us the screen that shows all of the different wireless microphones. So I like to shrink that over. I grab the edge of the screen, pulled it to the right. Unfortunately, it doesn't get any smaller than that, so I'll leave it there. I'll shrink the bottom just a hair so we can see the rest of the clock. And then if we want to test it, just so you can see what it looks like, I turn on MC1, and now you can see there is signal showing up on MC1 for both the RF and the audio. And the really nice thing about Wireless Workbench is that even when you have the tiles in this small mode like this, they're actually constantly recording all the data. So if we go back and we expand one into the timeline view, it'll show us the history. We don't have to have the timeline view open all the time. So it's nice to be there in case we hear a dropout. We can go back and look and see what happened. All right, so we've got the console on, we've got Waves loaded, we heard sound already with MC1, and the last thing then is to load the snapshot that we want for our particular service. So if we're running Sunday morning, we might load the Sunday AM snapshot. If we're running college, we can run college or whatever other snapshot we need. You can click on it here on the screen. I prefer to use the arrow keys over here on the right, but this little screen is tiny and super hard to see. So we also have it up here on the secondary monitor. So I'm going to scroll down, scroll down here to college and fire the college snapshot. And you maybe heard it in the video, but some faders moved, and now we're on the snapshot that we want to use for this service. Last thing I'll show you is the iPad here that we use for looking at loudness and the frequency content in the sound that we're hearing. So turn it on, wake it up. We're going to use the Audio Tools app, and sometimes it'll load in this view. So we're going to be under Acoustics, and then FFT is what we want. And you'll notice, actually maybe you didn't see it, I may have done it without saying it, but I plugged in this black cable coming from the reference microphone in place of the power cable. So now we're seeing this, we're seeing SPL level, and that we can use to reference while we're mixing the service. Okay, so that's the whole system. That's how we get it all turned on. To shut it down, opposite process. Obviously we can turn off the iPad. The main thing for shutdown in terms of waves and the console is to make sure you save first. So you're going to want to update the selected snapshot. So we'll do that, and then we'll push the Jesus Saves. That saves the whole console file. And now that we've done that, we can actually shut the computer or the console down, either one in either order. So we'll go to, on the console here, we'll go to System, Shutdown. Yes, we want to turn it off. Sometimes it'll ask you, are you doubly sure? You can say yes. Then we'll come over here to the computer. We'll go to, you can either go to Super Rack and quit, or the shortcut there you can see is Command Q. So if I do Command Q on the keyboard, it'll close. It says it's remote controlled, which we actually turned the console off, so it's not remote controlled anymore, but it thinks it is. I'm going to say OK. It'll take a second to close. I can also do the same for Wireless Workbench. It says, do you want to save? No, we don't need to save the show file because it's already saved. We loaded it when we started. And then we can shut down the computer. Then we'll push the off button for the PA. And the last thing we need to do is shut down the console itself. So you can see now the console says power off. And so we'll go back over to the rack and push the switch for console power. All right, and then the last thing, we'll put the dust cover back on. The dust cover is actually really helpful for this console because it keeps the dust out of the faders, which keeps them from getting jittery. So the more dust that the faders get in them, the more they'll chatter when you switch between faders or move fader levels, which is not helpful. So we'll avoid that. All right, and that's starting up and shutting down the main auditorium system. And put the dust cover back on. Try that again. I'll edit that back. Yeah, exactly. I'll probably just cut that out of the video. It's not that important.